name's Edward Grala,
How you spell that?
Grala.
And how old are you, Ed?
Oh, I'm going to be 78 in 3 weeks.
You're 78 years young.
Yep.
Okay. When did you enlist in the military, or were you drafted?
I was in the reserves for 13 months before I went in. All my friends were either drafted or enlisted. And I was down city one time, and I went to the Chimes building, and I said to the recruiting officer I was going to go down and enlist. I went and enlisted airborne like all my friends. Bad mistake, because they were all out to lunch, and the only one there was the Air Force recruiter, and guess where I ended up an hour later?
In the Air Force.
In the Air Force.
Wow, he twisted your arm, or?
Oh, he had a good pitch. He had a good show.
So you enlisted in the Air Force.
Yes.
And what was your specialty?
My specialty was aircraft mechanic, crew chief, with a secondary AFC of aerial gunner.
So you fixed the aircraft?
Yep.
And what else?
Flew in the engine in the airplanes when we went to the different radar sites.
What radar sites? What about radar sites?
When after I got a basic, they sent me to Alaska, and I was in an air transport squadron, which supplied all of the radar sites for the DEW line. I don't know if you're familiar.
No,
with
I'm not.
It's a distant early warning network, radar network, that was around Alaska and Canada, because during the Cold War, and they had a lot of, so they had different radar sites all around the ring of Alaska.
And you brought supplies to these places?
I was a crew chief or flight engineer. Some of my orders say we brought in supplies, personnel, USO shows, whiskey, and beer to these people for their rec rooms. And there were all kinds of runways. We had one runway going up to this mountain. It was about 17 degrees going uphill, and you had to make it on the first try, or you didn't do it when you had to turn the airplane around by hand, and you had to take off going downhill, and after you took off, you had to bank sharply to the right so you wouldn't run into the other mountain.
Oh wow! What kind of aircraft were these?
The C-47s, 119s, and one time when we had a couple of chopper pilots getting their flight time in at our squadron, that when their choppers came up, the one guy said, "Come on, I'll take you for a ride." I says, "I can't." I said, "I don't have to do anything today." He says, "Come on, I'll take you for a." He took me for a ride down to Kodiak Island, which is a naval air station.
A chopper meaning a helicopter?
Helicopter. And it was a 20-minute ride down and a 20-minute back. And he got out and he said, "What'd you think of that?" And I said, "I know how the hell a milkshake feels now."
So your job on the aircraft was what specifically?
Make sure it stayed in the air.
So you made sure everything functioned?
Fueled it, oiled it, checked everything. Had to do a pre-flight, had to put it to bed at night, and did it ready for the next flight, which was doing over again the next night.
So when you were on the airplane or the aircraft, you had to make sure the oil was right. If there was some malfunction, you could fix it in midair?
Well, if possible. Most of the time I was just there standing between the pilot and the co-pilot. And because many times the co-pilot was fresh out of flight school. And I had a co-pilot, a second lieutenant, one time when I was flying with this major who I knew pretty good. And he told the guy, he said, to put the gear down when we were coming into one of the radar sites. And the guy was nervous, and he dropped full flaps, and it almost put us into a dead stall. And so he started hollering and swearing at the guy, and he said, "Get out of that seat, let Ed get in there and take over for you, and you learn from him."
Oh, Oh, so cranking it down, he was supposed to do the wheels down,
Yeah,
and he
the
did the
wheels
flaps
down,
by accident?
make sure, like a double check on what the co-pilot was doing, because the gear has to be down and locked. You have to have a green light for it. You have an indicator how much flaps you're putting down, and the pilot takes care of the airspeed.
And the flaps are basically to slow you down on
Yeah, slow you
landing?
down. Yeah, so you slow you down for
Do
landing.
those things have brakes? Did they have brakes too? The
Nope.
wheels? The wheels, there's no brakes
Oh
on
yes, there's brakes, but I wouldn't call them brakes. I don't think they're that good.
them? So the flaps were actually
Yeah,
your
and
brakes?
when you landed, it was okay. It probably went 3/4 of the length of the runway.
And these are propeller-driven
Yeah,
aircraft?
these were
Not jets?
These were reciprocating engine things, 2-engine C-47s, and there are a lot of C-47s that are still flying.
Oh.
They use them for gunships in Vietnam, and a lot of the small airlines still use them.
Oh. And what was the name of your unit? Did you have a unit?
My unit was a 5039th Air Transport Squadron out of Anchorage, Alaska.
And the Air Transport what?
Squadron.
Squadron. And how many men were in your squadron?
Let's see, when I went up there, we had 28 airplanes. Probably when we flew over a 4-hour flight, we had a radio operator, so that's 4 men to a thing for that, and then all the maintenance personnel. I'd say a good 800 or 900 people in the whole squadron.
And what city or town is
It
this?
was near Anchorage, Alaska.
Near Anchorage, Alaska.
Hmm.
Any particular name for the town, or just
Anchorage, Alaska.
Oh, it was Anchorage.
Yes, Anchorage,
Okay.
Alaska.
And was the runway icy? I mean, I think Alaska is kind of cold. Is it icy? Or they keep it clean? Or what?
I will say this, our maintenance crews up there were the best I've ever seen in my life.
And what they have to do to keep the?
They plowed the runways, they kept them clear, and we didn't have any trouble whatsoever landing or taking off with slippery runways.
So you had snow up there, obviously.
Oh, yeah,
right?
definitely.
They had a. What'd they do? Put ashes down or sand or what?
At times they had a truck like welding torches on the back where it go down the runway if it got too thin.
So they melt?
Yeah,
No.
that was a safety feature, but they didn't have to use it too often.
Was it a concrete runway?
Yes, concrete.
So can you sand the runway with jets or planes? Do they
Yeah.
sand too?
No, they don't sand.
It's just kept clean.
They always kept clean,
Wow.
meticulously clean.
Okay. Did you rotate from like squadron to squadron, or did you stay in one place, one squadron at a time?
I was in that squadron for 2 years, and then I was sent to Bedford, Massachusetts.
What
To a
what years were you in the Air Force squadron?
I was in Alaska for 2 years. Few flights to Japan, 1 flight to Korea, which is probably not logged. And then I was sent for 14 months to Bedford, Massachusetts.
What years were you in the squadron? What year do you remember?
Of
What year?
1953 to 1955 in Alaska.
And then you went to Bedford,
That's
Massachusetts.
until 1957 when I got discharged.
So 50. Say that again. 1953
Yeah,
to 1955,
yep,
and then 55
to
to
57.
57. So you were in there 4 years in the military.
Yeah.
Did you retire from the military, or did you go back home?
No, I went back home, and my father accused me of trying to drink all the beer in Syracuse. He said, "You better get a job," so then I went to school.
Where did you get your basic training?
At Sampson Air Force Base. After they took it over after the Navy gave it up. in
Where's Sampson
1950.
Air Force Base?
It's on just south of Geneva, New York.
Oh, so it is in New York. Okay.
Yep.
Between like Seneca Lake, by Seneca Lake, or
Yeah, I think it's
Cayuga Lake? Or?
Seneca Lake or Cayuga Lake. I can't remember the name. I'm not good at. I'm getting senior moments on my memory.
So it was an Air Force training camp?
It was yeah.
And
And
that's
they, at one time, it had the biggest hospital east of the Mississippi there for you know, wounded coming back from Korea and sick GIs and everything.
How long was your basic training?
12 weeks, I believe it was.
12 weeks, and it taught you everything you needed to be about an engineer to fix the
No,
planes?
no, that just taught me how to, when somebody said something, you better get up and do it.
I see. So you were basically, was it on-the-job training?
And no, it was teaching you all about the military courtesy, the whole thing.
Okay.
And some courses in first aid and stuff like that.
So that was like boot camp.
Yeah, that's what it was, basically.
Where did you get your training for being an engineer on the aircraft?
At Wichita Falls, Texas, from, I believe it was 7 months I was down there.
And what did they teach you?
Everything about an aircraft, from the wheels right up to how to taxi one.
Well, you actually had to get in there and taxi it around?
Yeah, they did that just near the end if we had enough time, but when I got in Alaska, that was part of my job too, was parking the airplane. I had to be able to taxi it.
Wow, that's quite an experience, just a big aircraft to move around like.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to watch where you're going, left and right. And do you have people on the ground to tell you not to bump into stuff, or?
Well, usually when you park it, you had I forget what they call them, alert personnel. They had a flashlight in each hand with a long extension on it with lights, and they would tell you which way to go and everything.
I see.
And this forward, go right, go left.
And he would put the wheel chocks under there for you?
He'd put it out until.
And then you just shut it down?
Then I shut it down.
Okay. What can you tell us any stories about before shipping out? Did you get orders to go someplace, or how'd you wind up in Alaska?
How did I wind up in Alaska? They sent me there.
Okay, that was your first place to go?
That was my first assignment.
Can you share any stories about when you arrived, what your impressions of it was?
Well, not so much Alaska, because I liked it. I had read a lot about it. But a story that happened when I got off the train in Wichita Falls, Texas, and I was waiting for the bus from the Hanscom, Wichita Falls for the Air Force, the training school there. And I walked around the corner and I saw a sign on the person's lawn that said, "Yankees, airmen, and dogs keep off the grass."
That was your invitation in Wichita? Kansas?
That was my introduction to Wichita Falls, Texas.
Uh-huh. And you got there and you took the train there from New York?
From
Syracuse, and you got there, and how'd you get from the train station to the
They had a bus pick us up.
A bus?
Yeah.
More than one person?
I think there were 6 of us at that time.
And you were all engineers or different?
No, they went to different schools. They had some they sent to radio school and different like that.
Okay. What can you tell us what your family felt about you enlisting and then saying goodbye to go? What did your family feel about you leaving?
Well, my father said I ought to stay in for 20 years. My mother says, "Why you gotta go? Why don't you wait till you get drafted?" And the night before I left, my aunt and uncle came over and they brought a bottle of champagne to see me off.
So were they happy or sad, or was it what kind of moment was it?
I think it was just a moment of acceptance. Mm-hmm. They knew it was going to happen sooner or later.
And how old were you when you...
19.
So you enlisted at 19.
Yeah, but I was 13 months in the reserve too.
So you were there for 4 years, so you came out when you were like 23.
Yeah.
And your father said you better get a job and...
Yeah, he told me, he said, he come up one day, he shook the bed and he said, "You can't drink all the damn beer in Syracuse. Go to work."
So, what'd you think about going to Korea to fight?
I think it was the best thing that we've done since World War II, to stop the spread of communism. Without that in Vietnam, the whole Mideast would have been communist right now.
So your impression of the Korean War was that it was a necessary...
It was a necessary, I don't know if you want to call it evil or good thing or what.
Yeah, was it, you know, when you got there, did you say, oh, gung-ho, or we're here, we're going to fight the communists, and there was
No.
a big spirit of anti-communism when you got there.
No.
What was the emotions like among you and your men?
See, I was in Alaska, not Korea.
Okay, so when you got there, you had to support all
Yeah,
these
I was
men.
basically support personnel. But it was, and there wasn't much saying about it. It was a job to be done, so everybody did it.
And you felt that your job was to make sure the radar was working and the
Yeah,
supply.
we took the personnel, the radar repairmen, the supplies, all the spare parts for all of the radar sites in all of Alaska.
So your job was pretty important to make sure the radar was working, so that if there was
Yeah.
any invasions, they would be ready to detect.
Yes,
All this
in fact,
stuff.
and they, the Russians were really, I would say, alert or pushy. But one time when we went up to, see, there was 2 islands up there, Little Diomede and Big Diomede, and we had a runway on Little Diomede, and Russia had Big Diomede. And their radar, the ground control approach system, went out. So they said, circle for 10 or 15 minutes, and then we'll bring you in. So we were circling, and then about 10 minutes later, said right again, they said, you know where you're at? And I heard, I had the headphones on, and the co-pilot says, nowhere. He says, you're 6 minutes into Russian territory. And so the pilot put her down on the deck, he dropped some altitude, and when they get back to the island, which would only take a few minutes, and just about that time, 2 Russian MiGs were alongside of us.
So you had to get back to Little Diomede
Yes.
quick
Quick.
before they would shoot you out of the sky.
Yeah.
Because he was mistakenly going to the Big Diomedes?
Yeah, no, he was just circling
Oh.
while they were fixing their ground control radar.
At the Little Diomedes.
Yeah.
So he was circling, and because of that, you interfered into the Russian territory,
Right.
and the Russians immediately dispatched.
They must have, I don't know, but I looked out the Astrodome and a thing, and there was a jet on our port side.
What's an Astrodome?
It's where they shoot where you can shoot an azimuth to locate your position. I never knew how to do it, so don't ask me.
So it was like some kind of measuring device that.
Yeah,
And there was a
yeah.
place where you can get up and look, like
Yeah,
like
you
an
stick
observation.
your head up to your shoulders, and that was about it.
Like an observation.
Yeah.
Did you see the fighters?
Yep, I saw them.
Did they wave to you,
Great
or
big
what?
red star on the tail.
What'd they do when you? Did they wave to you? Did
No,
you?
they seen us, they were going, and then the guy just, you know.
Okay, so he saw you going the other way, and
Yeah.
he just veered off.
Yeah,
But must have frightened you a little bit to see some
Well-
jets like that.
to put it bluntly, I didn't know what the hell was going to happen.
You didn't know that. No,
No, we just had to wait and see.
they could have shot you out of the sky.
They could have.
Did they have bombs on them or military
No, they
things? Would they
didn't.
have bullets? Or-
No, they just, they had rockets, I think, at that time, but I'm not sure. I can't
So
be
you were
honest.
getting a little worried there for a few minutes when.
Well, yeah, it
Make
makes you
think.
wonder.
Makes you think a little bit if you're going to
Yeah.
go home that night.
Yeah,
So you were really in the war technically. You know, with fighters coming at you. You know, not on the ground but in the sky. You were part of the war.
well, basically, yeah.
Where else did you go? Did you just stay in Alaska the whole time?
A few flights to Japan.
What'd you do in Japan?
Well, can't talk about classified missions.
Oh, okay. So you did some missions,
Yeah, we had to go there, but they were classified
like
because
get supplies or pick up things.
Yeah,
Or,
yeah.
okay. What were the living conditions like where you were stationed in Alaska?
Good. I would say they were good.
Did you eat a lot of salmon? Because there's a lot of salmon in Alaska.
Yeah, I went hunting up there, and I did fishing while I in spare time and
What'd
everything.
you fish and what'd you hunt for?
Went hunting for moose.
Did you ever see one?
I seen them, but I never shot one.
Did you want to shoot them or just?
I wanted to, but then when I had a chance to, I said, well, what am I going to do with them when I get them?
And what fish did you catch?
Salmon,
So you did actually catch salmon.
yes.
Did you stand in the water and fish, or just from
Yeah,
shore?
offshore, and had a funny experience happened to me one time when we were fishing.
Tell us about your funny experience fishing.
I crossed the stream where I was fishing for salmon, and I went through the underbrush because it was too thick, so I made a circle, and I come back down to the stream, and it was about 6 feet over, on a little rise, about 6 feet over the stream. and I was going down to the stream, and I heard some thrashing on my left. And I said, uh-oh. And it was a bear,
Oh
a
my.
black bear. And I said, well, they don't bother you unless you threaten them. And then I looked over to my right, and it was one of her cubs, and I was between them.
Oh, what a
And
situation.
And I said, well, I guess I'm going to go for a swim. And I jumped off that thing into the stream.
You
Because
did?
as soon as she looked at me, I wasn't going to take a chance.
Wow, you were probably pretty smart to jump in the stream to.
Pretty scared.
Yeah. Did you leave your fishing pole behind?
As a matter of fact, I did.
What'd you tell your men when you went back? I mean,
They were on the other shore laughing like hell.
now did you catch any fish that day?
No, I didn't. They did.
You just got awful wet.
Yeah, right through.
Was the water cold?
Yep.
But did you wave to the bears on the other side?
No.
What an experience. So you had some downtime. You went fishing. You went hunting. Was life hard there besides that? I mean, when you weren't on vacation or doing that, was there a lot of stuff that you had to do besides the planes? Was there anything else?
No, when you're on flying status, you're usually exempt from a lot of the mediocre chores they have.
Like you don't have to do any ground maintenance. You're just
No,
just the
just-
planes themselves. You're
Just
it.
in the airplane. And
What was your rank?
I was airman first class. They call them senior airmen now. And I probably should have had more, but like the IG of Alaska said, keep your big mouth shut,
Okay.
Ed.
Was it like a sergeant grade or something? Or
Yeah,
a
it's
cap-
an E4, I believe. What it is.
E4.
Yeah, which equals the corporal or sergeant.
Was it
in
like
there.
every
Three stripes,
four,
I-
three, four stripes? Okay, so you were like a sergeant
Yeah.
in the engineer department of the plane. Did you ever meet any Koreans?
No, as a matter of fact, no, I haven't. Never did when I was over
But
there.
you pretty much stayed in America,
Yeah.
on the Alaskan American side.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's see. Was there anything most challenging? I know you told us about the bear story, but was anything else challenging besides the MiGs coming at you? Was anything else that might have happened that you could remember? Rewarding memories, sad memories, happy memories during your duty? Was there anything that stands out?
No, kind of hard to pick out anything in particular.
Can you tell us one happy memory?
When I was coming home from my sister's wedding, I wrote the girl I was dating if she'd meet me, if she's still interested in me, and she wrote me a letter, and she says, yeah.
Oh, so you came home and
Yeah,
you met somebody? Or,
yeah. Well, I had dated her before I left, before I went in.
I see. Did you see her again later?
Yeah, a few times, but we just didn't hit it off. So
Okay. So you
prior
had
friends.
okay. So you corresponded a little bit by
Yeah,
letter. Or,
yeah,
Did you
yeah.
have telephones there, or was it just letter?
Yeah, there were telephones. There were some guys who called home every week, and I said, "What the hell?" I said, "Yeah, baby, you gotta talk to mommy."
Did you meet any foreign troops there? Were there any coming in from different countries? Any allies? Did you
I
meet
met
them?
Canadian. I met some British guys. I met some airborne. They came up there for maneuvers, and I met them as they came. Some of them were from New York. I was taking a USO show to one of the radar sites, and every time I had a USO show, I'd say, "Hey, anybody here from New York?" And then nobody's saying. Then if they say yes, I say, "Anybody from Syracuse?" And then this one time, the last show that I hauled around, I said that, and this little girl, cute as a bug, she said, "Yeah, I'm from Syracuse." She come up and give me a hug, and they said, "Next time," he said, "we're doing the last show at the base theater tonight when we get back." So we went there, and they called me up on the stage, and they
Oh.
gave me some flowers, and she come up, give me a big kiss, and she said, "Now you get back to Syracuse."
How nice. And the USO show, everybody applauded you and everything?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Very nice. So, was there any thing that impacted you the most? I mean, you had the happy moments. Was there anything else that might have impacted you that you'll never forget?
Oh, yeah. Don't even like to think about it. When I was up there about 5 or 6 months, we had this guy, Knickerbocker was his name. He was married and had 2 kids, and their plane hit a mountain. They never found him.
Well, he was a pilot?
No, he was like me, same thing. And many times I think what faith was that he had just about less than 2 months to go and he crashed.
Oh my God. The whole plane went down?
Everything went down. They never
The whole
found
crew?
anything. The whole crew, they were never found.
This was just on a radar mission?
Well, yeah, they're going to one of the sites and then they crashed.
Was it a foggy day or is it
Almost every day's foggy in Alaska when you get up in the mountains.
So that must have been a sad day for the whole base.
Yeah, we flew search and rescue missions for a long time trying to find the wreckage. But sometime when I don't have much to think, his name comes to mind.
Knickerbocker.
Yeah.
Was he from around here?
I had no idea. I never got to know him that well. But what I did know about him, he was a very nice, family-oriented individual. And he was a great guy.
When were you discharged? I think you might have said that before. 50.
23rd of 57. Yeah, 23rd of February 1957.
So middle of the winter here.
Yep.
Was it cold there in February?
No, I was up at Boston then.
Oh, by Bedford.
Yeah, up at Bedford.
Okay. What? When it looks like you adjusted pretty good to the military life. Did you say you adjusted as well as the other men adjusted to things there?
Yeah, better. I've only seen, I think, 3 people that didn't adjust to military life. When I was going to tech school, there was one guy who, when I was there, he got out of the stockade the same week I was there. And I says, what the hell's he in the stockade for? He says he was AWOL. He was out 2 days and he went AWOL again. So then he went and he served time again and then he went out again. So he got a bad conduct discharge because he was continually going AWOL.
It was a tech school that he couldn't handle?
I don't know what he couldn't handle.
This wasn't basic training like boot camp.
No, this was tech school.
Tech school.
And when I was in Alaska, there was a guy from Philadelphia and one from New York City. They were caught using drugs, which I never even knew was around when I was 19. And I said to the guy from Philadelphia, I said, well, how come you're crazy enough to do that? I said, you're gonna get a bad conduct or dishonorable discharge. Don't you worry, if I get a bad discharge, that's an open ticket to the mafia.
Oh, so he didn't care if you got kicked out?
He didn't care.
So there were some guys that adjusted and a
Some
few that you knew
that
didn't.
Yeah.
That did drugs or were
Only
AWOL.
3 out of 3 of all I met.
You think those were the guys that were drafted? Or was it
No,
mostly
they enlisted too.
They enlisted.
Yep.
They still had some issues while they were there.
Yeah.
What was the impact of your service while you were there on the life that you had back home? When you came home, you said that your father said you got to get out of bed, stop drinking, and get a job or something. What was there anybody that said anything to you when you returned about what your experiences were like? Did you do a good job? Did they commend you? Did they give you a pat on the back? Did they tell you you shouldn't have been there?
Well,
at that time, what did they say?
2 of my friends, one that was older than me and one that was younger than me, when I got home, the first night they wanted me to take me out and show me the town. And I said, what are you going to show me the town for? I said, you're not going to show me anything I haven't seen here before. So they insisted. And they had a big party for me. Downtown used to be down on South Salina Street, McCarthy's. And they had all the people I knew.
Oh, they had a party for you.
They had a party for me.
Oh, that's nice.
Which was nice.
It was a welcome party.
Welcome home.
Very nice. When you returned, we hear people have nightmares about what they experienced. Did you have any dreams, or do you reflect on anything?
No, just like that, sometimes I can't sleep. I often wonder about that Knickerbocker whose plane crashed. That's about the only... I don't know why, it's just every once in a while it keeps coming back to me.
That really bothered you?
You know, it did when it happened.
Do you have any animosity about the war, or any negative feelings about the war that took place?
Something that had to be done, and it was done.
Mhm.
No bad feeling.
If you, in daily life, 60 years later, do you ever think about Korea and what's over there?
I've seen a lot of movies, and at the school up here, when we've come to a couple of functions, have educated us, and they showed how much they have prospered because of what was done over there. And I said, so it's a good thing.
So you think about the things you did were
Beneficial.
well worth it?
They were beneficial, yes.
What would you do if you were young and another war started?
I'd go back in right now if they take me.
You'd go back?
I would, definitely.
Why is that?
I don't know. I just feel I'd be useful.
You wanted to continue your
I,
service?
if you know, if they said, would you go back in now? And I'd say, yeah, I would.
Have you ever been back to Korea after the Korean War?
No, never back to Korea, Japan. We were supposed to take a cruise with my wife up to Alaska, and she developed heart problems, so that went by the wayside.
So you would like to go to Korea?
Yeah.
And see what you helped create?
A lot of the guys in our chapter have gone back. Some of them more than once. And our state president had been back 6 times, I believe. And
what did they tell you when they come back?
they said they were amazed at the progress and everything, and how modern everything is there. They were really amazed.
Do you ever hear the words, the forgotten war?
Well, Les Pete, the national chairman of the Canadian Korean veterans, was at a function with him, and somebody said police action or the forgotten war, and he took that guy over in the corner. When he got done with him, I guarantee you, he's not going to say it's a forgotten war anymore.
Not going to mention police action. He's going to say
it was a war.
It was a war. And what do you think about the U.S. policies towards Korea today? Do you have any ideas about that? What your feelings are? Our policies with us?
Put it bluntly, I think it's pretty damn good. Better than a lot of other countries.
So we have a good relationship.
Because when we went into Iraq, they were the first ones that volunteered troops to go over. I don't know if you know that or not.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No, when the thing in Iraq, in that Desert Storm, they were the first ones that volunteered troops to go help us. So that ought to tell you something.
What message would you give to the future generations listening to you, who'll be listening to this interview? What would you tell these young kids? They'll be probably little kids in class, or may get on the internet. And what would you tell these people? What message would you like to give to these people?
I would tell them to do what I was lax in doing myself.
Tell us about that.
Stay in school. I stayed in school, but I didn't apply myself as good and as heavy as I could. So I stayed and studied, because when I went to 2-year college after I got out, it was tough. So stay, study, and stay up to date on everything that you can.
So get a good education.
Definitely.
And you think that's going to be a success story for everybody? Stay in school?
Well, if they got the right kind of teachers, because we've got some teachers that telling them that we're no good.
I know that you weren't actually in the ground in Korea, but what can you say about the legacy of the Korean War veterans? I know that you're president of what? What are you president of?
Chapter 105 in Central New York.
Of the Korean War Veterans
Yes.
branch? What?
And I also got reelected senior vice president for the State Department too.
Oh, so you're a local president and a vice president
Yeah,
for the state association.
yes.
What can you say about the legacy of the Korean War veterans? You work with these guys all the time. You meet with these people all the time. What can you say about the legacy of the Korean War veterans? You work with these guys. You see them all the time. What people think, what you think. What kind of legacy do the Korean War veterans have?
Funny you should ask that, because when I tell people that they ought to come and join us, and they say, nah, I don't want to join. And I tell them, look, I belong to the Legion. I belong to the Moose Club. I've been to a couple Elks meetings and other meetings. But the Korean War Veterans Association is the friendliest group of individuals I have ever had anything to do with.
What do you think? Why do you think everybody's so friendly? And
Good question. I don't know.
It's
I'm
just-
not a
it's just-
psych major.
It's this little group of
It's a-
people. Well, not little, probably 100, 200 people.
Yeah, we have about 107 in our chapter now.
Is it some kind of bond you might have or
It,
something?
it might be, because a year and a half ago, they finally bugged me in to get into a computer. And I get emails from all kinds of Korean War veterans.
And it's like this, they know to come to you?
If
or-
they see something that's amiss, they'll say, here, pass this on to your members and forward it to anybody you know. I feel it's a good project, but because I wasn't on duty in Korea, I feel like I'm taking advantage of it, to be honest with you. Although I did serve in that time, and I served in what at that time was a very delicate and necessary.
Why are you interested in participating anyway?
Why am I?
Yeah, why?
Well, it's probably important that the future generations know about what we did. It's just like a lot of people have seen my hat. They've come up and congratulated me.
What is your hat?
The hat that says the 60th anniversary of the Korean War. I had a guy from Desert Storm come up and thank me. I was shopping at Best Buy, and there was a guy, he's in the Army now. He was checking people going out. He told the line, he said, hold it. He said, I got to talk to this guy and shake his hand.
Very nice.
And so stuff like that makes me sort of, some people think it's important what we did.
Very nice.
But I had one woman that told me we had no business going that, we had no business being in Vietnam when I went to a senior citizen meeting one night.
So you think it's important that you participate in this to tell the future?
Yes, so that they know, because the history books are not teaching it anymore.
Okay, all right.
You remember the movie on television that was Band of Brothers?
Yes. With
And-
Tom Hanks, right? Was it him? Was that the movie?
No, they had a bunch of different
Okay,
actors in
okay.
it. But it was about the invasion of Normandy and Europe.
Yes, yes, yes.
I'm the head usher down at church. And every week this guy Hank used to come in. Hi, how you doing? Somebody told him I was a Korean War veteran. The next week he come in. Hi Ed, shook my hand. From that day on he shook my head every time. I'd ask, what's going on? Found out he was in the invasion of Normandy. He was not an easy company, but he was one of them that survived the jump. He was in the Battle of Bastogne, fought his way through Holland and into Germany, and he just died. So,
So it's like a brotherhood.
yep.
Do you have anything you're going to be submitting as far as paperwork?
I've got some papers that are like what I did And I got a book from the squadron I was stationed with in Massachusetts. I got just a couple pictures, none of them too good. There's one of them when I was at the Arctic Survival School.
So the photographs, a book. Did you take photographs while you were there?
Yeah, but none of them are any good.
Oh, did you get postcards or anything? Or?
No. I wasn't much for writing much letters, many letters.
So you're going to be submitting a book, and do you have any letters that you wrote to your girlfriend, or that she might have saved,
No,
or you received
no.
from somebody?
No, never put anything in writing.
Oh, okay. Well, I want to thank you for coming, Ed. It was a great interview.
Oh, I hope it was beneficial.
Oh yeah, it was. Thank you again.
Like I say, I feel a little guilty because there are people that deserve it more than I do.
And remember Knickerbocker.
Yes, always.
Thank you.